Howdy, folks. I'm Cruising Karina, carefully cresting cerulean currents.
I'm Amber.
And here are more cerulean currents for us to crest because we're the hull or the keel of the ship today. And you know what that means? It's Special Sunday, folks. Let's get started. Alright, folks. And our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Stealing My Girlfriend's Dream Job? I'm a 23-year-old male, and my girlfriend is a 23-year-old female, and we both met through studying law at university together. And we have the shared goal of eventually being trainee solicitors. In the UK, it's an incredibly competitive process, with some firms receiving 4,000 applications or so for roughly 50 spaces, and almost everyone who applies is a strong candidate. Ever since I've known her, my girlfriend has been fixated on training at one firm in particular. I'm not sure why, but I believe it's because she attended a career event there just a few years ago and fell in love with it. Well, when the application cycle opened, my girlfriend was excited about applying, and she asked for my help in reading the application and checking it over for her. I was happy to do this and wanted her to achieve her goal. When reading hers, I became interested in the firm, and on a whim, I decided to submit a last-minute application. I weighed it up, and I decided not to tell my girlfriend about this, as I didn't feel my application was strong, and I was less focused on only one firm, so I would send out other applications. Well, yesterday my girlfriend received an email that she had been unsuccessful in reaching the next stage, an interview, and she was really upset, but I made her dinner to cheer her up, and she seemed over it the next day. As I had applied to other places throughout my application, and I had thought that my application was weak, I didn't think much of my own, and wasn't overly fussed if I progressed or not. However, the next day, I received an email that I had advanced to the interview. I was surprised, but also happy because I knew that this was a difficult place to get an interview for. When I mentioned to my girlfriend, she was incredibly upset and started crying, and told me that I had betrayed her and stolen the job from her. Now she is refusing to talk to me, despite me trying to reach out. Part of me feels extremely guilty, as I know how much it meant to her, and I was less fussed, but on the other side, I think that maybe the job world is competitive, and I shouldn't restrict my future opportunities just for someone else. While there is no guarantee that she would have gotten it anyways, and I don't have any guarantee about that either. So, am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think?
Yeah, I think OP's being the jerk here for not communicating properly. Like, it's one thing to apply to a job, but when you are in a relationship, you need to have open and honest communication. And especially when you are competing with someone you're close to. I haven't been in the exact same situation, but a good friend of mine and I, we both applied to the math master's program at the same time. And ultimately, we both got in, but it was very stressful, and one of us was offered first. If it was one of those situations where, like, if you hide things and then one person gets it and the other one doesn't, like, that's going to build resentment. That's going to build upset. And so I think OP, if he really wanted to do this, he should have let her know up front that he was applying, even if he thought his chances were bad.
Well, and also kind of gives OP a little bit of an unfair advantage in the respect that he reviewed her application, right?
Well, that's true. I hadn't even considered that.
And so he already had had filled out this application. He had also seen hers. He knew what she had done, and he could always take that and improve upon it. And I mean, I know that he says that he doesn't really feel like his was strong, but it was clearly more strong than he thought. And also, with something so competitive, it can be really difficult to know how to prioritize things. And I mean, I understand that OP does have to look out for their own career prospects. And in reality, if one of them gets in there, then it might improve the odds for the other person to get in there as well. But that needs to be a discussion in the future, and that needed to be a discussion in the past, and they needed to work out what would happen if one of them got in and the other didn't, right? So I think that it was not right for him to hide this, because clearly if he hid it, he knew she would be upset by the fact that he had applied.
Yeah, it just seems really kind of dodgy, and I know he says that he's not really fussed and seemed to take this with zero seriousness, and so it raises the question of why. Why did he choose the place where she had her heart set on, and like if it meant absolutely nothing to him,
Hmm.
then why didn't he just pass this one up and apply to the other places?
Well, I think the reasoning here is that there's so many people who are applying that it's better to apply to as many places as possible. That way you have as good of a chance of getting in somewhere than nowhere, right? And so I think that was his philosophy here. I'm not saying that's necessarily the right or wrong philosophy, but it is something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying he shouldn't have applied, but I do like wonder what about her application changed his mind? Because it sounds like it wasn't until he saw her application that he's like, I'm going to apply to this place, the one place she has her heart set on.
Yeah. So I feel bad for her because this was a place that she had her heart set on, but I also feel like she should have applied to more places if she did want to get in somewhere. And you really can't put all your eggs into one basket generally, and that's just the reality of the world sometimes. I think that, he did hide this for a reason. I think that he knew that this was going to be a pain point, and while he wasn't expecting to get in, it's now biting him in the butt that is at least moving forward in the one process here. So
Yeah, well, and it's going to create also an uncomfortable dynamic in their relationship in the like, oh, well, now he's better than me at this. Like, and it
hmm
doesn't necessarily mean he's better. So, the thing about job applications, any kind of job application, is companies are run by people or AIs. There are AIs who do a lot of the filtering nowadays.
yeah,
But
yeah,
whatever it is, there are criteria. Some people are going to fit the specific criteria of the specific company better than others. There could be internal biases. There could be sexism. I mean, it's law. There's all kinds of implicit factors that go into this. So it doesn't mean that he's a better or more qualified candidate. It means that he better fit the qualifications for the specific position.
yeah. So I do think it's a difficult place, and I think that a lot of conversation could have alleviated much of these problems. So I think that OP was wrong not to talk to his girlfriend. I think that if he didn't care this much about it, then it shouldn't have been that big of a deal. And I think he was trying to avoid a hard conversation that he now has to deal with. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And me, Leanna Lee, says, as to the original question, you didn't steal anything, so not the jerk. In general, though, you're the jerk. You applied without telling her, which is messed up to say the least. You set yourself up for this, to be honest. It could have been so easy to be like, hey, do you mind if I apply too? Wouldn't it be great if we both got in? Edit to add that this is an example. I don't think that you literally had to ask her permission, just tell her. She probably would have been on cloud 9, and she wouldn't have been so blindsided to find out that you had gotten the interview. If it wasn't bad enough, you got the interview, not the job. You already made the decision not to tell her. Yet, when she is still raw from the news that she isn't getting her dreamed opportunity, you just had to tell her that you had a interview. You already made the choice not to tell her. You should have stayed with that choice until there was something to actually tell her. If you had interviewed and you didn't get it, since you had already made the choice not to tell her, she wouldn't have even known, and none of this would have happened. Why would you tell her about the interview? I bet it felt like you were kicking her while she was down, and that you wanted her to know that you were better than her. I'm not saying that this is your intentions, but this is exactly what I would think. Is this how you wanted her to feel? I mean, I think that person made a lot of good points there.
Yeah, although if he actually then did get the job, that would be even worse. Like, there is no good way to do this other than tell her up front.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think they made a good point about the whole, if he had talked to her originally and been like, hey, we can both work here, then she wouldn't have had a big shock and blow to deal with right now, because she would have known that he was still in the application process, and this wouldn't have been like oh, I didn't get in, but suddenly now I find out my boyfriend not only applied, but has an interview now. Alright, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for hiding my wealth from my fiance and his family? My fiance is a 28-year-old male, and he is a doctor, and I am a 28-year-old female, and I work in finance. We both earn almost equal pay. We have been together for a year and a half and got engaged a month ago, and are planning to have a wedding in 7 months. His family is full of doctors, while my dad owns a business. My mom is a stay-at-home wife, and my brother, along with his wife, are high school teachers. My parents still live in a small townhouse that my grandfather bought since the two of them grew up there, fell in love, had us, plus all of their friends live there. Basically, emotional attachment. I never try to hide my wealth, I just don't show it off. For example, I prefer traveling by public transportation because of traffic and parking, while he drives a Range Rover. I have a Samsung and he makes fun of me for not owning an iPhone. I prefer not spending thousands of dollars on a dress that I am only going to wear once. I also enjoy eating fast food rather than going to a Michelin star restaurant. I admit that I never really told them how much my dad earns, as I just felt that it was unnecessary. Anyways, I think him and his family assumed that my family doesn't have much money or something like that. After getting engaged, we went to his parents' house for dinner, where they asked me what I plan to do in the future. I replied that I am planning to quit my job after the wedding and work for my dad. They kind of got confused, mad, weird, saying why would I quit such a high-paying job, and that if I'm planning to push all of my financial burdens on their son, well, they would ask for a prenup. I agreed. Well, a couple weeks go by and we started planning our wedding. In my culture, I'm Indian and he's white. We have big weddings. That's the only place that we show off our wealth. My parents were discussing about how they want to invite over 250 people from our side since I will be taking over the business and its networking. How they want to have two weddings, an Indian one and a white wedding. Now, Indian weddings have a lot of functions, spanning 3 to 4 days, all of which would preferably be hosting at 5-star hotels, or if we follow my dad, he wants to rent a castle. His parents demanded that if we have an expensive wedding, that we will be the ones paying for it, which my dad agreed, and said that he was going to pay for everything even if they didn't ask. As the wedding planning proceeded, my fiance and his family realized that we are spending way more than they can afford. I guess that's when it struck them that my dad's business isn't really as small as they had expected it to be. They did a Google search and found his company online and his net turnover every year, which is on the website. Anyways, now his family is mad at me, saying, why did I hide the fact that I am this rich? And I'm pretty sure they want to cancel the prenup, which I am going to not do since it was their idea. Well, his mom is basically harassing me, saying that I misled the family and that I am a jerk for trying to hide my wealth for so long. So am I. Edit and info. My fiance has a basic idea of my family's wealth. He knows about my dad's business. The in-laws did not. He agreed to the prenup, which his mom had brought up first. We had talked about it and came to the conclusion that it would be good for both of us. He had agreed to it despite knowing that my family is wealthier. He is not on his mother's side. They aren't really close. I guess it's the reason that he never told his family about my finances. He did talk to her and has been defending me. It's just the constant remarks that make me feel a little guilty, wondering if I did something wrong. I just wish to have a good relationship with my in-laws, but she is making it impossible. P.S. I know my dad's wealth isn't mine. That is the reason that I don't spend much. As I said, I am planning to quit my job and take over the business, hence my mother-in-law sees it as an asset. Alright folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. First of all, like OP pointed out, her dad's money isn't hers. I know she plans on taking over the business in the future, but right now her current finances, that's not hers. Secondly, the only people who have a need to know about the finances are OP and her fiance. Everyone else in the family are not entitled to know anything about the finances.
Yeah.
So as long as OP clued her fiance in, and it sounds like in her edit that she did, then that's fine. Her fiance's family decided to make bad assumptions about her and her family, and now they're seeing what happens when you make assumptions.
Yeah, well, OP did kind of word things a little strangely because throughout the letter they're like, my fiance and his family didn't realize blah
Right.
blah blah. And so it does make it seem like he had no idea that she had money at all. And I don't know, I think that these people were being overly judgmental, and I think they were also the whole idea of the prenup, right? Like, I'm glad that OP and her fiance worked things out where they decided that a prenup would be good for both of them. But it's a little strange that they would jump onto this after the mother-in-law suggested it, right? Just to, because like you would think, if anything, why acquiesce to somebody's demands like that? And certainly, like, it's good to have prenups if you want to have a prenup, right? But you shouldn't feel compelled to have one or not have one based off of what your mother-in-law says.
Well, I mean, I think it actually just benefits OP more to have one, so she's like, okay, why not?
Yeah. Well, and I think that too. I'm not saying that she should not have a prenup. I think that is a good idea here, but I just don't feel like you should be acquiesce to the mother-in-law's demands one way or another, right? But I mean, it's probably going to work out for the best for OP here. So why fight it, like you said? I think that OP is not in the wrong. They don't need to know the finances, right? I mean, it's just kind of silly that they're over here demanding that OP tell them the finances. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, while Amber has a joke that is considerably less wet.
What do building materials do on Halloween?
Well, they certainly don't get wet. That's for sure, because this is a very dry joke.
They brick or treat.
Brick or treat? I can see that. I can see that. Are they all dressing up as bricks? Even the nails?
Probably.
There you have it, folks. That's what happens to all the lumber over Halloween, as it turns into bricks. And I have Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Happy special Sunday! And you know what makes it special? You do. And Amber, too. And her jokes!
And Brian.
Folks, Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please, have it on communication.
I mean, I said this earlier, but open and honest communication is the key to healthy relationships.
It is. It is. Whether it's your fiance or your fiance or your fiance or your husband or partner or anything. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!